2020. Now tell me, as you sang Auld Lang Syne, did you guess that 2020 wasn't so benign? And how quickly we would all be confined by coughing and stopping and internet shopping? A life of unmute, no commute, but weirdly Zoom bombing? And cover your face and track and trace and competing for supermarket delivery space? By March, we're all confined. I wander to the shop and I feel something deep inside. No matter how hard I try, I cannot turn it off until finally it's coming and I have to cough. I try and explain it's just a tickle, a mild sniffle. I'm quite insistent, it's not persistent. And as farm foods is emptied by a shopper's scrum, I sat outside and cried and wondered how I was going to wipe my bum. I mean, the world's gone all 28 days later. This is what it comes to, using scrunched up newspaper. How fine the line between sophistication and desperation. A whole civilization now overnight is holding out for a vaccination. But with that first lockdown came something great. As spring sprang to summer, a beauty shone among the weight. I watched the lady from 2 doors up, carrying a plate of something steaming down to number 8, who's locked in with a couple of kids to self-isolate. So we clapped and WhatsApped and waited and hoped and grieved and wept. But in time, the good intentions faded. The neighborliness that I paraded degraded. And then it happened. And we knew someone who died. And as we cried and wept, and in our grief, it broke our belief that this was just some distant test, a giant disruption, a forced rest, a blip from normal consumption, that Sweden was some kind of Eden. For we had lost and grieved, and it had taken what could never be retrieved. For this was never just about jobs or NHS or money. And as we watched our friends struggling for breath, an ancient reminder, this is about the oldest enemy of them all, death. And so again, we grieved and wept and felt bereft of hope. But 2020 also spotlighted another pandemic. A racist endemic, a privileged systemic, a bigoted scourge, a need to purge the other. What are you to me, a blight or plight? My anger intense at your expense, how dare you speak or spotlight my offense? And we saw social distancing is nothing new. Their whole communities kept out of view. And so we watched in agony, the kneeling on another man's neck, and kneeling to show respect, and kneeling to protest. And so again we grieved and wept and felt bereft of hope. So pack them away, tear them down, the tinsel tree, and cheer. I'm sorry, Chris Rea, but no one's driving home this year. And what did I learn from 2020? What was the goal? We never struggled before to fill the void in our soul. Those manicured lives always felt whole, hidden behind an infinite scroll. And I was holding down the lid on Pandora's box and papered over death with a hedonistic Botox, with 1,000 distractions of life's best attractions. Until the pandemic laid waste to all illusions, the shattered statue of control was just an illusion. My need to travel proven to be a delusion. Social validation laid waste by a forced seclusion. So here is my grand conclusion. We're in need of a purpose transfusion. And so we hear ringing from the church of heaven-born Prince of Peace. We grieved and wept and felt bereft. And dare we dream of hope? Did you not compute? Christmas is off. Santa is destitute. It's probably best if I forget to unmute. Let's get to Christmas. A time to examine what makes it so timeless. A message of cheer and kindness. But we all know it's business. For shops, for presents, for food, delicious. And not just for greed, it's family too, even when you have to grimace opening up a jumper from your Aunt Louise, it's hideous. And the cynic in my head gives a new narration. As you take down the decoration and stop your preparation, remove the language of salvation and take away the religious foundation and any foolish connotation that we are God's creation. And that we need anything more than a Christmassy sedation. Church is a business, see? Festivities means donation. And 2020 is outside of any divine control. God ain't on patrol. A baby born in a hole isn't going to save your soul. It's time to wake. They all fake. Divine stories of talking snakes. If Christmas is about celebrating a Messiah, you pick Santa, you pick Jesus, I pick Mariah. But then every once in a while, you go back to the nativity file, like Joseph, forced to question his fiancé's lifestyle. Thinks Mary's approach to truth a little versatile. Sounds all a little bit Jeremy Kyle, same audience of self-righteous spewing bile. But Joseph's got style and told to raise the child because as the story begins, he's told he's the savior. He rescues people from their sins. He has a special title, Emmanuel. It's vital. He's the break of a cycle to solve a problem so primal, it's archetypal. And we sing, pleased as man with man to dwell, Jesus our Emmanuel. It means God is with us, it means God is for us, it means God's reason is bigger than just a winter season. He comes to deal with our treason. It's the light in the darkness, the hope of the hopeless, an end to the harshness, the triumph of life over death. That's the starkness of God incarnate. And so again, as we grieved and wept and felt bereft, there is the life raft, a rope. More than a strategy to cope, bigger than a cultural dope, more than just a moral soap, more than mere religious trope. But hope, hope, precious, precious hope. When you read the Nativity, do you think beyond the festivity and wonder, if you were in the story, who would you be? Would I be the Magi, the magicians of the East, like inviting Mystic Meg to the first Christmas feast? What would they know of God? They would be the least likely to come. How come they know better than the priests? Or were they just the first people to be fleeced? And then you have Herod, the original Scrooge. I mean, the guy engages in a genocidal subterfuge. Oh, I'd like to worship the baby boy. His inner voice telling him, you're not the real McCoy. You're nothing more than a pretender to the throne, a decoy. And his only answer is to destroy and kill and spill the blood of 1,000 boys, just to crush that inner voice, just to hush my secret choice. My life is my domain. This is where I reign. This is my plane. I don't need another ruler. Over my life, I'm bigger than Henry Tudor. I believe in my own sovereignty. But here's the thing that troubles me and it burns and bothers me for the Scrooge inside of me. I want to believe I should live carefree, but here the problems be. My sins, like some weighty ancient decree, emanate from me like I'm standing on the edge of a sea. Like Herod or Scrooge, I'll live my own rags to riches story, but Christmas is more riches to rags about the baby who goes from heaven to earth, who gives up glory. I don't want anything disrupting my life. I don't want something coming in to cause me strife or question what I believe. I don't need a spiritual relief. I'm completed. I've achieved. But like Scrooge was pushed to the limit to see what really matters, like George Bailey, we all need a Clarence, or shouting out, Kevin, as we arrive into Paris. We need a 2020 to make it apparent, a Christmas disruption, however unpleasant, that I am not in control. I'm needy and weak. I need other people. I'm up a certain creek, and without a paddle, I'm no Greek god, and it's not just a physique. What Herod doesn't want to see, what the Magi glimpse as they bow the knee. This little baby isn't just some divine wannabe. He's got the original family tree. He's here to set people free, and billions in him will find more joy than you ever thought possible, more peace that makes every problem solvable, more grace than you think is responsible, more life than Attenborough could chronicle, more change than you think plausible. Into God's family you become adoptable, so even death doesn't make the hope unstoppable. And yet here he is for the Scrooges and the Magi, for the screw-ups and the sages, for shepherds maybe I do more than sigh or walk on by, but have to reconsider, is there a story bigger? And if there is, where do I figure? Happy Christmas.